Hey guys, what's up? It's Atomic and welcome back to my channel. With the extension of the 2.6 update by 3 weeks, the current Abyss chambers are also extended by an extra cycle as a result. If you're still struggling to clear the Abyss, then you're at the right place. Today, I'll be showing you lots of tips on how you can absolutely blast through floor 12 of this Abyss with ease and save your precious time and frustration on try to 36 start. Let's get into it. Let's start by ranking how good each element is for this Abyss. Cryo is an absolute beast of an element for this Abyss and will be 100% needed if you want to clear the second half of chambers 2 and 3 quickly. It interacts with all the herald's elemental shields, and freeze means you can easily group, then damage the heralds together, saving you lots of precious clear time. Animo is also great. It helps you to group the treasure hoarders and whopper flowers on the first halves of chambers 1 and 2, helping to significantly reduce your clear time. Hydro is another element that is absolutely needed for this floor, to help clear the shields of the 2 Pyro Abyss lectors in the first half of chamber 3 quickly. The other 3 elements, which would be Electro, Geo, and Pyro, are all quite neutral in terms of applicability for this Abyss. They're not particularly useful for any specific enemies per se, but at the same time, they're obviously not bad against any particular enemies as well. The main idea here is to have at least a Hydro character for the first half, and a Cryo character for the second half if you want to ensure an easy clear, with Animo helping out even more in certain chambers such as the second half of chamber 2. Not using these elements can result in a very hard time in clearing the Abyss Heralds as their shields are quite tanky, on top of their already large HP pools. Now let's talk about what kind of teams you should be looking to use. For the first half of this floor, the real concern are the shields of the Pyro Lectors. The team I recommend you all to use would be any variation of the National team, whether that be Raiden National, Child International, and even the OG National works great for the first half. You've probably heard this many times before, but the National team is very free-to-play friendly, using mostly free 4-star characters and needing only 4-star weapons for them to achieve maximum damage potential. For a more 5-star heavy team, I actually recommend using the Morgana team, which would be Ganyu, Diona/Rosaria, Mona/Kokomi, and Venti. The crowd control capabilities of this team is very helpful in the first 2 chambers of this floor, and freezing the enemies is really just the cherry on top. Morgana is actually very good for the second half as well, so pick your sides carefully with this one if you do plan on using this team. Ultimately though, just remember that any team with a single consistent Hydro applicator that has either large amounts of AoE damage or an additional grouping power with Animo characters are really good for the first half. For the second half of this floor, the concern is once again the chamber 3 Hydro Heralds, which would be very slippery and hard to group. The teams recommended here would be any Ayaka or Ganyu team. Being good cryo DPSs, they not only shred through enemies with ease, but their cryo element is what gives them the clear time edge here. As mentioned before, cryo interacts with the shields of all heralds in the second half, being fully effective except against the Pyro Lector. If you're lacking these cryo DPSs however, an interesting team that is also very good is a Hu Tao team that runs Chongyun. Surprisingly, Chongyun actually works quite well with Hu Tao, with a skill enabling grid cryo application while not overriding Hu Tao's skill, in addition to his burst huge AoE that easily damages the shields of the 3 Abyss Heralds/Lectors in the second half of chamber 2, while also crowd controlling the ones in chamber 3 for Hu Tao's charge attack spam. In summary though, no matter what kind of team you're running, it is heavily advised for you to have a cryo character in your team. The ability to freeze the heralds in the 3rd chamber speeds up your clear time significantly, and is just too valuable to pass up. Finally, let's get into a chamber by chamber analysis. For chamber 1, the first half spawns enemies in 2 waves. The first consisting of 3 Nobushis and treasure hoarders, the second consisting of 2 Kairagis and more treasure hoarders. The second wave will not spawn until all enemies from the first have been felled. The Pyro Monument in the center of the floor will constantly apply a Pyro Aura to enemies that significantly reduces your damage against them. It is recommended to remove it quickly for this reason. Characters like Venti and Kazuha are absolute king here. Grouping the smaller enemies speeds up your clear time significantly for the first half. The second half spawns 2 Ruin Guards at each side of the floor. You can easily group them together by either standing in the middle or walking towards one of them, and then unleashing all your damage against them. There is also an Electro Monument that functions similarly to the one in the first half of the chamber, and you will need to remove the Electro Aura using Pyro or Cryo damage. Otherwise, these 2 Ruin Guards are just punching bags for your DPSs and you shouldn't have too much trouble clearing this side of the chamber. For chamber 2, the first half spawns Cryo and Pyro Whopper Flowers one by one after an initial 3 when you start the chamber, right after each one is defeated. They can be easily grouped by moving far away from them and having them all burrow to reappear next to your location. Once again, Animo characters such as Venti and Kazuha will make this a breeze of a chamber to clear. If not, just move far away to group them if the flowers become separated. The second half of this chamber is arguably the most difficult chamber of this entire Abyss, with a Hydro Herald, Pyro Lector, and Electro Lector all spawning at once. Instead of trying to forcibly group the lectors together using certain elemental skills and charge attacks, you can instead just walk far away from them to get them to move towards you, grouping them easily this way. Direct the herald towards the lectors by his attacks, then unleash your AoE abilities on them. Once you activate their elemental shields, you can actually use any animo character to swirl their elements with each other's to break their shields down even quicker. Another tip for this chamber is that if you see attacks beneath your character from an electro lector or the pyro lector, you can just simply jump away, conserving your stamina for charge attacks and chasing instead of dodging. And lastly, for Chamber 3, the first half consists of just 2 pyro lectors. Use the same trick as previously described to group the lectors together, then once again, unleash your AoE abilities on them. After their shields deactivate, make sure to destroy the furnaces quickly to avoid taking massive team damage, and regroup them as needed if they are knocked back in different directions due to the furnace's destruction. If you're using Xingqiu, make sure to have a full burst ready to go before the lector's shield activate, as Sacrificial Sword does not proc on them as you're not doing any damage to them after their shields activate. The second half consists of 2 Hydro Heralds, and could be tricky to play if not using a freeze team. You can either lure them together by moving far away once again or move towards one of them. To keep them grouped, make sure both of them are facing the same direction when attacking you. Otherwise, you would need to waste precious time in regrouping them again. If you're using a freeze team though, things become much easier as you can just keep the 2 heralds permanently frozen until the end of time. And that about wraps up the video. Overall, just remember to use a Hydra character for the first half to deal with the Pyro Abyss lectors, and Cryo in the second half to freeze your enemies to the oblivion. Let me know in the comments what are some of your tricks and tips in clearing the Abyss quickly, and let me know if I miss any. This is Atomic, and I'll see you the next time.